Dragonflight news is slowly coming out, guys. We're starting to see previews of some of the new talent trees coming with the new expansion. As of this recording, we have seen the Druid and the Death Knight, but we have not seen any of the Demon Hunter ones, not Havoc or Vengeance. So today we're going to talk about what we'd like to see in these trees, some of the problems that Havoc currently faces, and maybe potential ways that we can solve those problems. This is mostly just going to be a video of me talking with some unrelated background footage, probably of a Mythic Plus run or something, because I obviously don't have the Demon Hunter trees to show you yet, but it'll be just my luck that we'll get the previews after I release this video. It always happens. Anyways, let's dive right into it. But first, have you ever wanted to analyze your group's Mythic Plus or Raid but felt overwhelmed by the endless charts, graphs, and numbers? Squadov takes watching a VOD to a whole new level with so many useful features, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. Squadov is nuts, guys. It records all your dungeons, raids, and even arenas automatically without having to push a single button, and then provides you with easy to read data, stats, spell visualizations, and more, which you can view anywhere from the Squadov app. Ever wonder why you died during a pull? With Squadov, you can immediately find your death on the timeline, run back the tape, and watch it again for yourself.
Frankly, that's a skill issue.
It even tells you exactly what abilities you were hit by at that very moment. Best of all, you can register as a squad and see the perspective of your teammates for a broader understanding of the encounter. If you ever wanted to take the next step to improve your gameplay, Squadov is the best tool on the market. Check out the link in the description to use Squadov completely free. So the first thing we'll talk about are Covenant abilities transferring over. We have seen that the Druids are getting Convoke and the Death Knight is getting Abomination Limb. So we can only assume that Demon Hunters are going to get something. So let's talk about the 4 abilities and which ones fit, which ones don't fit. The first one we'll talk about is the Hunt, and I think this one is a given. It's probably the only ability that makes sense, in my opinion, practically and lore-wise. And it's just widely accepted as the best and most fun Covenant ability for Havoc. It's fun to press, it does good damage, you turn into a Super Saiyan rocket and you launch towards the enemy. It's great. Sinful Brand, on the other hand, is notoriously the worst. In theory, it's cool. We're using it now because it has the best synergy with other things, but the general playstyle just feels so horrible. I don't think anyone is hoping to see it in Dragonflight in any form. The other one is Elysian Decree, and that one doesn't really fit into the Havoc playstyle. Vengeance has sigils, so it could make it into their tree, but Havoc just simply doesn't use sigils, and I don't think it should. If Vengeance does get it, it would probably need to be renamed and rebranded because it's very Kyrian based right now, so it would need a new name. Fodder to the Flame has just been through so many iterations. They've tried to make it work countless times throughout Shadowlands, and it's always fallen short. Even if it was an active ability, meaning we could press it and it would work whenever we wanted, it's still extremely clunky with the extra step of having to kill the demon and then find the demon soul. So the Hunt is the only one that really makes sense to me. I would hope that they fix the known bug of the dot hopping to enemies like 100 yards away, but we can only hope. Now let's talk about I-Beam. I-Beam needs to be uncapped. It's essentially just a buff on a short cooldown right now. It currently does drop-off damage past 2 targets. So despite it being an AoE spell and broadly known as an AoE spell to other classes, it's actually not. It's mainly a utility ability for Demon Hunters at the moment because it just puts us in Demonic and gives us haste. It barely does any damage. Now let's talk about Immolation Aura. It's great that they've made it baseline in Shadowlands. I think that was a great move because having to talent into it in BFA was super limiting. The problem now is something that we've been dealing with for a long time. Some people haven't even known about it, but this might clear some things up for people when they find out. You know how you've always ended up pulling Threat at the start of a pull? That's because Immolation Aura for Havoc and Vengeance actually share the same threat modifier. This has been happening for such a long time, and I've even personally reported this to Blizzard through some personal contacts that I have, but it's yet to be addressed. So let's hope this gets fixed, if not in this expansion, then at least for Dragonflight. Now, an AoE spender is something we desperately need. We got teased with Glaive Tempest, and we all thought it was going to fill that gap in our toolkit, which it did. For the first hour it was on the PTR. It had no cooldown, and you could use it as much as you needed as long as you had the Fury to spend. Currently, we don't have a baseline AoE spender. If you don't consider abilities that you have to talent into, like Glaive Tempest, Unbound Chaos, even Blade Dance is only usable if you take First Blood, The majority of our baseline AoE damage is coming from Immolation Aura, so I hope we get another ability to put on our bars that has no cooldown, just like Chaos Strike, but is AoE. We need a proper cooldown. Right now, our only cooldown is Metamorphosis. There's some problems with this though. First, it's on a 4-minute cooldown, which is one of the longest cooldown times of any class. Aside from that crazy priest ability that has a 10-minute cooldown and Army of the Dead at 8 minutes, I think, Meta is one of the longest. In theory, it's pretty powerful in what it does, if you think about it. It buffs the damage of Chaos Strike and Blade Dance by 40% for 30 seconds and stuns every mob it hits. But it's not a burst cooldown, which is sometimes problematic. And most importantly, it's literally the same effect as another one of our talents, Demonic. The cooldown immediately loses overall value in terms of power in our toolkit because we actually get to proc that same cooldown with every I-beam we cast. The other problem is that our core abilities like Chaos Strike and Blade Dance are tuned lower relatively for the meta empowerment to still be balanced. So if you're not in demon form and hypothetically not talented into Demonic, and you're using your standard abilities, it's expected and balanced around those abilities getting the momentum buff to compensate for not having Demonic. So I'm not sure what the solution is here. It's something I'll have to think about some more, but something definitely needs to be done. Something that could fill this spot is an old ability Havoc used to have called Chaos Blades. It was a 2-minute cooldown and increased all damage by 30% for 18 seconds. It turns our auto attack damage into chaos damage, and increases the damage of your auto attacks by 150%. Now, the Blade Dance debacle. It's pretty ridiculous that in order for one of our core abilities to even be worth pressing, we have to take First Blood as a talent. Again, this goes back to the problem of our core abilities being tuned low, so we can be fed talents, conduits, or other modifiers to make them better and equal to what we should be getting, instead of getting cool, new things. I think we've made this problem loud and clear over the past 2 years in Shadowlands, and I'm confident they'll change it in some way. It would take a massive overhaul, and Dragonflight would be the best time to do it. Now, just a side note, I'd also like to see Blade Dance dodge come back. If you don't know, in BFA, Blade Dance gave a 100% dodge chance for 1 second. I think this should come back only in PvE though. It needs to be disabled in PvP because it was insanely broken in Arena, but also a good expression of skill when it came to Mythic Plus. Now let's talk about momentum. This is a touchy subject and has been the topic of so many arguments between demon hunters over the years. Some people absolutely love playing momentum, while others find it clunky and don't like using their movement ability for DPS. Personally, I don't think that's a valid argument because other classes dodge those mechanics without having a 15-yard dash. If you're looking to dodge something close in melee, you could even just jump and glide, and it's faster than manually walking out. The bigger problem is that momentum and demonic are pinned against each other in the last talent row. Having to give up demonic to take momentum is a big sacrifice, and so many other pieces need to fall into place for it to be worth it. So in the Dragonflight talent trees, I'd like to see those two talents split up to give us more options or some type of rework. The next thing is more of a deeper problem, but I think it could be solved through a talent or something of the like. The problem is that none of our stats really do anything. Crit has only been particularly good for us when there was something external involved, like Frost Domination Gems or the cache of acquired treasures. Haste is good for us, but we're given a shit ton of it for free with our I-beams, which devalues getting it on our gear. Right now, the most important thing in terms of haste is just having enough to get 2 death sweeps inside of a demonic window, or getting 1 more cast of Annihilation in to get that I-beam reset through Cycle of Hatred. Mastery has the potential to increase our damage, but it just doesn't, because not all of our damage actually is chaos damage, and aside from that, it just doesn't scale well enough. And then finally, there's versatility, which is just good because it's a flat damage and survivability increase, but it's a common thought among WoW players that if versatility is your spec's best stat, then your spec needs some serious work. Now, I know we didn't talk about super specific things in terms of talent trees here. We touched on a few things, but I mostly wanted to talk about problems we currently face and potential ways they can be fixed. I wanted to avoid going too deep into talent trees because they could literally do anything when it comes to designing this thing. They could change how one thing fundamentally works, and it would change a bunch of the arguments I just said. For example, like, let's say they bake momentum into Fel Rush, making it baseline. But let me know what you guys think. What are you hoping to see in our talent trees? What abilities do you want to hold on to, or what do you never want to see again? Is there anything from the Vengeance toolkit that might be interesting to pick up as Havoc? Let me know in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.